Good evening and welcome to our September 17th, 2025 Board of Douglas County Commissioners 5:30 business meeting. Paper copies.
Commissioner Kelly, I'm not hearing you.
Can you hear me now, Robin?
Test.
I'm not hearing you on Zoom.
Okay, let's give it a minute here and make sure we're connected.
Commissioner Willie, can you hear me?
Test.
I can hear you, but only faintly.
Oh, okay. I think we're getting there.
She said faintly?
Faintly.
Still not. Test. Robin and Commissioner Willie, can you hear us?
I can hear you a little bit. I think we might have to turn your microphones up a little.
I want to turn it up to 11. Better? How's that?
Test. Can you hear us better now?
I can hear you.
Commissioner Willie, can you hear us better?
If I turn my volume up, I can capture what you need me to hear. It's pretty quiet.
Thank you. We're working on it.
All right, we'll see if we can make this work. I think we can proceed.
Okay, I'll start over. Good evening and welcome to our September 17th, 2025 Board of Douglas County Commissioners 5:30 business meeting. Paper copies of the agenda are available for those here in person and a full packet is available on our website. Reviewing our agenda, first we'll consider our consent agenda. There are 6 items on that agenda. After our consent agenda, we'll have general public comment, and we welcome general public comment for addressing issues not on today's agenda, but otherwise related to county business. Given our limited time and the need to have an orderly and efficient meeting, we apply certain rules regarding public comment. We do our best to enforce these rules consistently and without regard to the point of view expressed by the speaker. Here are the rules. Each speaker will be limited to a total of 3 minutes of speaking time. However, we will accept public comment of any length in writing. Individual speakers may not donate unused time to other speakers. All comments must address topics within the jurisdiction of the County Commission, and we reserve the right to mute or remove any speaker whose comments are threatening, aggressively hostile, or belligerent. Campaigning for public office during public comment period is not allowed. Please give your full name and address for our meeting minutes and address your comments to the Commission. Please know that the comments received by the Commission during our meetings do not necessarily represent the views of the Douglas County government, but we value the input. We don't usually respond to general public comments on the spot, but if you leave your contact information with county staff, we'll try to get your specific questions answered. After that, we'll move to our regular agenda. There are 5 items on our regular agenda tonight. Our first item is an MOU with the Friends of Senior Resource Center. Then we have a rezoning request to look at. We have 2 items for special event permits, one for Garrett's Farm, or Garrett's Haunted Farm, and another special event permit request for the Save Our Soils of Cobb Valley Foundation. And then our final item is a site selection for the Douglas County Fire and Medical Station number 6. For each action item, we'll hear from staff or an applicant, followed by questions from the commission, and then open up the items for public comment relevant to that item. Once public comment is closed, we'll bring the item back to the commission for further discussion and a vote. Lastly, a recording of this meeting will be available on the county's YouTube page and website. Tonight, Commissioner Reed is not joining us, but Commissioner Willie is online. Hello, Commissioner Willie, good to see you. And with that, we'll begin with our consent agenda. Commissioners, would either of you, all three of you, any of you like to take an item off consent agenda for further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to pull item 1.5.
Request for 1.5. Any other items? Okay, anyone from the public like to remove an item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing none, anyone online, Sarah? Okay. Commissioners, I'd welcome a motion on the consent agenda.
Everyone's looking at me for some reason. I move we approve consent agenda items 1.1 through 1.4 and 1.6.
I'll go ahead and second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed by signify by no. Passes 4-0. Okay, we'll move to item 1.5, which is through emergency management, and it's from Mark, Regional Resource Sharing Agreement. Commissioner Anderson, did you have some specific questions on that?
I do, yes.
Robert, yeah, if Robert Benecki could come forward, thanks.
Good evening.
I'm Robert Benecki, the Director of Emergency Management for Douglas County.
Some of the questions I have, with this particular agreement, is this a new agreement or is it a renewal?
It's a new agreement.
And with this particular agreement, what type of particular disasters would this particular agreement actually be addressing?
Okay, so it could go beyond disaster. It could be a significant emergency of some kind. But the idea is that this agreement can be exercised without a disaster declaration in place or while we're waiting for a declaration to come. And so it gives us the flexibility to start bringing resources or send resources where they're needed.
And is this particular agreement also in preparation for any particular events that we might see coming in the future?
Yes, a little history about it. It's a good question. So as we're preparing for World Cup next year, we've began planning meetings with the metro jurisdictions. And one of those jurisdictions is the Metro Emergency Management Committee, which is a combination of all the counties that you see on the front of that document, Johnson, Wyandotte, Leavenworth, Miami, and then the Missouri counties as well. So in those meetings, this agreement came up and I was curious about it. I started asking questions and what it could do and what we could do with the agreement. And in those conversations, we were asked if we were interested in signing on as a partner with the other agencies that have signed on so far. Hopefully more will sign on, but it's basically a last resort type agreement. So if we did not have a mutual aid process in place or agreement with any jurisdiction, this allows us in good faith with those jurisdictions to share those resources. It won't override anybody or anything. It's totally voluntary and there's no initial financial impact on it.
I had a couple questions. Do you know what cities or counties have already signed up for this?
I do. I can tell you Johnson County their commission just signed it August 28th, so they're pretty new. In Kansas, Prairie Village, Osawatomie, Lansing, Westwood, Olathe, Shawnee, Merriam, Miami County, Johnson, and Wyandotte. On the Missouri side, North Kansas City, Parkville, Independence, Belton, Lee Summit School District, Grandview, Excelsior Springs, Oak Grove, KC Board of Police, Liberty, Kearney, Central Jackson County Fire District, and Platte County, and Jackson County, Clay County. And so our hope is that other jurisdictions, maybe even in Douglas County, City of Lawrence, and maybe other cities would, if we approve this tonight and we're in agreement with it, that they may take a look at it and agree to it as well and sign on.
Do we have an existing agreement with DeSoto?
We don't have a specific agreement with DeSoto. So from emergency management or Douglas County, I can't speak for specific first responder agencies in the county who may, but we don't have an agreement like this. And the big difference between this agreement and our mutual aid, the other consent agenda item was that, since 2002, that mutual aid agreement has been in place and it always required a disaster declaration. And so in approving that consent item, you approve that that's basically the only thing we took out of it since 2002 was like we can change or we can share resources without having a disaster declaration. So it helps.
Well, the one thing that came to my mind is a lithium battery fire at Panasonic plant. Those can grow quickly before an emergency declaration can be.
Agreed. Yes. So we'll make this known to other cities in Kansas that may not know about it yet, and hopefully they can take a look at it and they would agree that signing on is a good thing to do.
Thanks.
And why is it beneficial for other cities to sign on?
Well, it's a collaborative, good faith. We're partnering. We're working with them. We're saying that if there's something that's so large and you can't handle it, we'll help you. And likewise, if we have something like that, you'll come and help us, or you'll send those resources to help us. Well,
Thank you, Robert.
all right. Thank you.
Any public comment on this item? Anyone online, Sarah? Okay. Commissioners, any further comments? Welcome motions if it's appropriate.
I recommend we approve consent agenda item 1.6.
1.5.
1.5, thank you. We approved 1.6 already.
Yes.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 4-0. Joe, we have general public comment. It's okay. All right, we'll move from our consent agenda to general public comment. Is there anyone here who'd like to provide general public comment?
Name, please? Miller? Thank you. Deputy Miller and Bergen both knew that nothing was going to happen in here a little bit ago, and I'm sorry, Erica, you missed it. Your fellow commissioners kind of stepped in this shit again, along with the dumb Sarah Plinsky over here. I'll make a video and you can watch it. The reason I'm here is because this newspaper article came out about bringing civility back to civil discourse. The reason this article is happening and the reason that civility back in civil discourse is happening is because these very sensitive politicians in this county don't like it when citizens express their rights, as you saw in here a few minutes ago before the meeting started. There was no meeting in session. That means freedom rules, and my free speech rights prevail. Even during this public comment period, my free speech rights prevail. Like I can say that Patrick Kelly is a fucking pussy for joining this effort to try to villainize people that speak. And we have somebody that's going to have to leave the room because the words that are being said, and these are the people that they have to criminalize us for so that they feel better. because those people need me to be in jail because I say that Patrick Kelly is a fucking pussy. I actually have a sign that I made up that's about 3 by 5 that says Patrick Kelly is a fucking pussy. I had put that sign away because the county commission had appeared to have learned some lessons through the lawsuits that they've endured and the sheriff losing his qualified immunity for the arrests that his deputies have perpetrated in this room. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why the deputies did not move to come in here and assist the bullshit that was going on in here. Again, these men were criminals according to the king. They all deserve to be beheaded according to the king. They all deserve to be jailed, silenced, and shut down according to the king. You had another media outlet here. Just because the king says a certain media outlet can't be here, we have another media outlet that willingly gave up their right of access to help the king fuck this guy and say, you can't be here. That's your Lawrence Times, guys. Let freedom ring, but only for those that we like. And you know who I am. I'm going to be coming for records. I think I got a few more seconds left. Sarah Plinsky, you made some admissions on camera that I don't think you have the records to back up, and I'm going to be asking for them.
Any other public comment, general public comment here at the courthouse? Anyone online, Sarah?
No.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move to our regular agenda, and the first item is a memo of understanding with the Friends of the Senior Resource Center, Inc. And I see Jill's making her way to the podium.
Yeah, my enthusiasm is just so high about this, and I mean that truly, so sorry to jump the gun. Commissioners, you have a memo providing you an overview of what we're proposing with the new relationship between the Douglas County Senior Resource Center and the Friends of the Senior Resource Center. Earlier this year and starting last year, we started the transition for the Senior Resource Center to become a county department, and we are on schedule to make that formalized later this month. A lot of things have been happening behind the scenes that we're really excited about, and with all that work happening, the need to designate the separation between the prior organization with its board of directors and the ability to raise funds for ancillary activities needed to be done. And we also needed to just make sure there was clarity around what were the roles and responsibilities and services that would be provided by Douglas County, and what would stay with the Friends of the the newly named Friends of Senior Resource Center. So the MOU outlines all those roles and responsibilities, and it provides the information on why those designations are unique. There's a lot of details in that MOU, not too many, but we've been very thoughtful about them. The MOU has gone back and forth a few times with a lot of conversation between Megan and I, the SRC staff and board, and county staff and county legal counsel, just to make sure that we're striking the right balance and that we think we're on the path to success in the future. Megan's here. There's members of SRC staff that are here, other staff as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and I know Megan can as well.
Thank you, Jill. Megan, thanks for being here for questions. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I had a couple. Has the new Friends of developed their bylaws yet?
They're in the process. A draft is available, but they have not formally been approved. I think that's next week, you said, Megan, right?
And the other question I had then is, any funds that they raise would only be available to the Senior Resource Center of Douglas County, or would it be available to any senior organization in Douglas County?
The Friends of Senior Resource Center will be an independent not-for-profit. they will be able to designate any funds that they raise, they'll be able to designate where those go. So,
But the MOA says that it will be for the benefit of the Senior Resource Center, I believe so.
want to come up? This is some really specific wording according to the IRS. So as a private 501c3 charitable organization, that board of directors has the discretion of where those dollars would go. And that's the structure with the IRS of a 501c3. I can find the specific wording, but what it really comes down to is that the intent is to continue to support the quality of life for seniors of Douglas County. That can be through the Senior Resource Center. Legally, it's not appropriate to say that only the Senior Resource Center and the county, by virtue, can apply for those funds. That's just not something that is legally appropriate.
The reason I ask is Eudora has a senior foundation that's quite active over there. And I got to thinking, well, if they had some kind of special little project that they didn't have funding for, and if there was available funds in the Friends organization, if that would be a possibility. But if that memorandum of understanding stands,
it really comes down to the mission of the Friends of the Senior Resource Center. So the mission defines that it is organizations that support the quality of life of seniors in Douglas County, Kansas. So within those parameters, if you want to think about the different entities in the community that are going to be supporting seniors in Douglas County, that really narrows the pool. So, is there a chance that like the Senior Foundation of Eudora would say, hey, we would like to receive some funding for X, Y, or Z? By nature of the Senior Resource Center for Douglas County being this senior entity for Douglas County, that would probably be something that would be appropriate. The board would be taking under advisement, these are dollars that we've got a budget for. When we put together the annual budget, if there is space in that to say, these are the activities for the Friends of the Senior Resource Center that we intend to support, then if there are funds outside of that, I'm so sorry, I'm having a hard time with my pronouns on we and they and I and them, that the Friends group board would like to approve something like the Senior Foundation of Eudora, that is something that could be discussed. Probably would be something that we would support as a county as well. There's a good chance, because that's part of that whole county-wide support of seniors.
But generally, and I found the language I was looking at, it said the FSRC will work closely with the county to listen to its needs with respect to serving seniors through Douglas DCRSC and give serious consideration to supporting those needs as funds are available. So that was the language I was referring to.
Yes.
Generally, Friends organizations don't have open applications for other funding sources, but that, I think through collaboration, those are some things we can work on.
Yes. Yeah.
If I can jump in here, Sarah, I also read on page 2, item 7, the FSRC will manage these donations and will direct funds from these donations to support the DSRC and related programs supporting seniors in Douglas County. So I think to what Megan's saying,
Yeah.
it does open the door, and to Commissioner Dorsey's question, that could be something that they would do.
The way that this is structured, the Friends group is not providing programs or services directly. And I think that's something to keep, it's going to take a little practice on how we divide these things in our minds and in our actions, because it is new, it's different. We've got habits currently that we're going to need to change.
The Friends group is, in essence, a fundraising group, not a program and service group. There are no staff to do that. There's not the, I've got our board treasurer, Ed Schulte, is here tonight. I feel confident that Ed's not interested in putting on any programming as a board at this time and place. It does keep the door open that down the road, if there's great success, if there are new opportunities, you know, there's great things that can happen. But right now, it's a completely voluntary, completely volunteer-run fundraising group, and so the scope will be relatively limited.
Was the 501c3 set up as a public charity?
What we are able to do, this is a really great piece of this puzzle. We're able to transfer the EIN of the Senior Resource Center for Douglas County to be the EIN of the Friends Group, and doing that through our 990 filing this fall, so we don't have to reapply as a new charitable organization. So we're able to skip that very time-consuming step because the mission isn't changing.
So, question for Jill. Jill, do we have any relationships like this, the county, with any other friends groups like this?
We don't, but there are comparable examples in the community. So the Friends of the Baldwin Library, there's Friends of the Lawrence Public Library. When Sarah and I were both at Johnson County, the Friends of Johnson County Developmental Services, Mental Health Library they've been around for a long time. So this is a first for us.
Good. I kind of like firsts and like pushing that envelope, and just, I want to make sure I understand the language. And on page 3, if it's not going well, if we need to make adjustments, we obviously work towards making those adjustments, but the county could terminate this agreement and the FSRC could terminate the agreement at any time without cause. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Those are my questions. Commissioner Willie, any questions from you?
I guess one, and that was, whatever funds the Senior Resource Center has had as its current nonprofit, as that turns over into the county office, will those funds then become county funds serving that mission, or will they become part of the Friends of the Senior Resource Center?
Because those were dollars donated to the organization under that EIN, they need to stay within it. The IRS regulations require that any funds given to a nonprofit agency, if that agency is no longer in existence, those funds have to be transferred to a similarly missioned 501c3. They cannot be transferred to anywhere else. So it is not within IRS regulation to transfer those funds to the county. So that is the starting balance for the Friends Group, which is kind of great. You know, we've got a starting balance to work with. A lot of, if you want to call this a brand new nonprofit, a lot of brand new nonprofits don't have that opportunity, and they are, really having to struggle and scrape to get started. And so this won't be in that situation.
I appreciate that clarification. Thank you.
I wanted to add too that when we developed the county's service agreement for SRC for this year, that we made sure that we are thoughtful about that timeline that we've set, and so just enough funding for personnel to get through September 29th. Yeah, so we were really thoughtful about that amount, but even then, and we've been thoughtful about what one-time expenses can be incurred in their budget as we make this transition, a lot of purchases for new IT equipment, things like that. But we still think that that's going to leave the Friends of SRC with a accommodating balance.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, we'll open it up for public comment. Thank you both. Anyone here at the courthouse like to provide public comment? Anyone online, Sarah? Okay, back up to the commission for discussion. Any further questions and/or motions? Not seeing any. I'll just appreciate staff's work and Megan and your team's work on this. We've been working on this for a while, and I'm excited about it, and happy to make a motion to authorize the county administrator to sign a memorandum of understanding between Douglas County, Kansas and the Friends of the Senior Resource Center, Inc.
I second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our second item, which is from the Planning Department to consider rezoning Z 25008, 20.27 acres at 205 North 1700 Road from AG1 to AG2. I see Catherine Wick is here and getting set up. Hello, Catherine. Good to see you. Got to hit that button, Catherine, and be nice and close to it.
Let me know if it's, did I miss it? Oh. Sorry. Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. My name is Catherine Week. I'm one of the city county planners, and I'm here to kind of shepherd this application through the remainder of the process. This one was started by Mary Miller, and she retired in between Planning Commission meeting and Board of County Commissioners meeting. So I will hopefully pick it up and be able to answer your context questions for this. So this rezoning is from an AG1 zoning designation to an AG2 zoning designation, and it is for 20 acres or a little over 20 acres. It is located at 205 North 1700 Road, so that's just south of State Highway 40 there along that 1025 or East 200 Road access to the south. So the key points for this request before you is that the applicant is requesting this rezoning so that they can divide their property from the 20 acres to two approximately 10-acre parcels so that they can sell that portion of the property to permit another residential district. The reason for the rezoning request is that AG1, you must have a minimum of 40 acres to divide your property because minimum size requirement for a AG1 property is 20 acres. So this rezoning would facilitate that land division for them to be able to develop that with another rural residence use. That's one of the differences between that AG1 and AG2 designation. Both of those are our ag designations in the county, but again, that minimum parcel size is what distinguishes those two districts from each other. The uses are very similar, which we will get into if you all have some context questions here in a minute. So this slide shows you the area where we're located. The key points, again, as I mentioned, the applicant currently lives on the property and is wishing to divide this property into 2 acres, 10 acres, or two parcels of 10 acres in size. This gives you the layout of that existing parcel that we're talking about. This is approximately that 20-acre parcel. That division would be basically along the center line of that parcel, going so that there's a parcel on the north and a parcel on the south. So we have specific rezoning review criteria whenever we're looking at a rezoning application. Those criteria, there's 10 of them, which includes a staff recommendation. We look at the zoning and uses of nearby property, the character of the area, suitability of the subject property for the uses for which it's been restricted, the length of time that properties remain vacant, the extent to which removal of restriction would detrimentally affect nearby properties, the gain, if any, to the public due to the denial of the application compared to the hardship imposed upon the landowner, conformance with the comprehensive plan or other adopted plans, and then suitability for agriculture uses, particularly for that AG1 district. There's a requirement that we have to look at whether or not there's a loss of agricultural lands, and then the impact on environmentally sensitive lands. I can touch on this briefly. They are all outlined in the staff report in your packet. The guiding document for this particular property, it's not in a area plan or a sector plan, so that guiding document that we're looking at is that comprehensive plan. And so looking at that zoning and land use, you can see here the property or the parcel in question is outlined in black. It is primarily surrounded by that AG1 district with some AG2 to the north and to the south. And if you go further north, there is also some more AG2, but it is again primarily AG1 in this designation. Mary has also outlined in this slide here for you where those rural residences are currently. Those red dots on the parcels there indicate that there are established rural residences on the properties. And the yellow indicates where a proposed new residential development could occur if the property is successfully rezoned and divided. I should mention too that that division process is another application type. So if this rezoning were to be approved, they still have one more step, and that would be a certificate of survey application where they would basically divide that parcel into two. All the requirements for certificate of surveys would apply. They have to meet the dimensional standards for the AG2 district. And there is also a set aside for any environmentally sensitive lands, which we'll talk about here in a minute. This is the character of the area. There was also some helpful maps in your packet that Mary provided showing you that kind of the layout, the topography of the site and the area, kind of the ribbon kind of effects that those soils or agricultural lands take throughout this area and this parcel in particular. So in Plan 2040, talking about natural resources and in the county zoning regulations, one of those environmentally sensitive land classifications that are intended to be protected through that comprehensive plan are agricultural lands, and particularly the Class 1 and Class 2 soils are identified as environmentally sensitive lands. Chapter 2 talks about the natural resources in the comprehensive plan and basically to manage those land resources, to maintain their natural functions and ensure their sustainability for the future. So that is one thing that we analyze when we're looking at rezoning applications in those AG1 districts. So we have to analyze whether or not we need to protect those high quality agricultural soils. This property has some Class 2 soils. Class 1 and Class 2 are the protected soil classes in that comprehensive plan. And this property does contain about, I think, 9 acres of Class 2 soils. It's about 40% of the site, a little over 40%. Also, when looking at the natural resources, we look at continuous areas of land. For instance, we don't want to break up large swaths of agricultural property, and so we look at those continuous acres adjacent to the property in question and whether or not this impacts those adjacent, basically the whole area of agricultural land. In this case, the adjacent properties, contiguous properties have open area, are primarily open space, but not necessarily agricultural used space. There's some trees, and as I mentioned, some hydrotopography changes in this area. So this gives you kind of a general layout of what those contiguous lands look like adjacent to this property. Chapter 3 talks about growth and development. One of those goals is to protect and preserve the rural character through compatible design and conservation and strong growth management. That comes into how we look at the character of the area and surrounding zoning. And is this particular application a request to rezone in conformance with those goals? And again, it talks about minimizing those agricultural land conversions to non-agricultural uses and to maintain working lands and high agricultural soils. In this case, and I think the applicant may touch on it for you in a minute when they speak, this case, the size of the parcel is a little bit difficult to maintain some of the agricultural activities on this particular land, and dividing it into may not have the impact that, say, a larger area of agricultural land being subdivided into smaller lots might have. So this would be the addition of one additional rural residence potentially, and then those doesn't preclude necessarily from those smaller parcels to continue to be used as ag on the areas that are suitable for that. Another goal for the comprehensive plan is to provide some housing opportunities and while conserving that overall rural character. And so when we look at the character of the area, we also are looking at the infrastructure. This is a major collector at East 200 Road. One of the parcels would take access from there. The south parcel actually would already maintains access on that East 1700 Road. And since it is a major collector, it could accommodate an additional residence on that major collector. So that's one of the things we look at when we're looking at providing opportunities for rural growth and making sure that we're not damaging the character of the area or the rural character of the area. These are some of the other criteria points that I mentioned before. I don't know that we need to touch on every single one of them, but I can definitely go into them if we have context questions as we work through this. Again, these are the review criteria. Staff is actually recommending approval. The Planning Commission also is recommending approval because it met most of the zoning review criteria. The vote from the Planning Commission was 6-3, and there was some discussion about some of these items, so we can kind of touch on those if you have questions. I'd be happy to clarify any context issues or questions if you have them.
I had a question on some of those other AG2 units in the area. It looks like maybe some of those were approved back in time before the minimum was 10 acres, because if you were to scale, some look like maybe they were 5 or something.
Yeah, so part of the reason for the AG2 designation was to kind of encapsulate those parcels that were already divided into smaller acreages that couldn't accommodate necessarily traditional agricultural uses. And then the other aspect or benefit of having the AG1 and the AG2 is that now provides us a tool to look at, how many of these of the acreage are we per se losing from AG1 and going to AG2. So now that we have two different zoning designations, we can kind of track that. So this did two things: encapsulated those existing ones, and also provides a path to keep track of ones that divide since the new zoning codes. So I don't know if that answered your question, but okay.
Catherine, I know in a number of these drawings, you're showing a line separating. If we did 10 acres and 10 acres, there's a line. But there's no fence there that's required. Someone could farm that entire, that's not being taken out of production, but it could be two different landowners. Is that correct?
A rezoning is, and even a land division, is definitely not taking the potential for that use to continue the ag use, if they're haying or they're having some crop ag going on there. That could continue even if it were to be sold to another individual who would develop that south lot with the residents. If they mutually agree to, everybody cut their hay all at the same time and, split the profits or whatever, however they may work that out, that could still be done. So currently there is no fence there. That line is just showing the proposed concept of a land division, how they could equally divide it into two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. We're going to invite the applicant up. Any other questions real quick? Commissioner Willie?
I had one question. Did you mention that 9 of the acres or 40% plus of the actual site is actually falls into that category that is like prime soil? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, it looks like in the staff report, yeah, it is actually called out. It's 40.5% of the site, or approximately 9 acres currently on that 20-acre parcel.
Okay, and so in a situation like that, how would that then fall into like a category where maybe the Planning Commission would find it that it would be agreeable?
Rephrase your question. What do you mean by?
So like in the questions, some of the questions are aren't the questions related to like minimizing?
Okay, I think I see where you're going. So I think how you would determine whether or not it meets that criteria point is if you have to weigh whether or not first, the rezoning, because the rezoning actually doesn't change the potential for them to land. But then the land division potentially could create a division of that 9 point whatever acres that is currently considered prime farmland. So one owner may own 4.6 acres of it now, one owner may own 5.2 acres, or whatever that might be. The commission would need to determine whether or not, and I'm not sure if staff can make that determination. We feel it could meet the criteria, but the commissioners would need to weigh whether or not that is substantially meeting the criteria point for a loss of agriculture to the point where you feel like it does not meet that criteria. And so I think the Planning Commission had a similar discussion, and that's why the vote was 6-3. It primarily focused around, whether this is a loss of ag land, if this is to go forward, or if, based on, the character of the area, the size, what is currently happening, other context issues on the site and the other criteria points, whether or not this doesn't rise to the level of a substantial loss of agricultural land.
Okay, so that would be action step 2.7, protect high quality agricultural
Yeah.
soils.
And those soils don't go away. One other protection that is built into the system is that, again, I mentioned with that certificate of survey process to actually divide the land, there is a protection in there in the zoning codes that requires it set aside for any environmentally sensitive lands, because this high class soil or class 2 soil for ag does meet that definition as outlined in the code for environmentally sensitive lands. They would need to set that aside as protected area and not infringe on that with their building envelope. So the building envelope would need to be outside of those deemed environmentally sensitive lands. So there's another step in the process that potentially could address that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Just checking in, Commissioner Willie. Any questions here? None? Okay. Thank you, Catherine. We'll invite the applicant. You're welcome to address the commission if you'd like.
I'll leave the button lit for you. Yeah, it's on.
Oh, you were on. There you go.
It's all new to me. So my name is Terry Martin. I'm the property owner along here with my wife. So a little background for you. When my wife and I moved out to this property 12 years ago, ever since we've found it very difficult to find farmers willing to farm this land. It has historically low yields, and all that documentation was provided to the Planning Commission, and it's a small parcel. Therefore, farmers don't want to mess with it. So as of last year, it's no longer farmed. We are not farmers ourselves. We moved out there to raise our children. I grew up in Baldwin, and my wife is from a small town as well. So as my time in the Air Force was coming to an end, we wanted to raise our children in a rural area. In addition, so last year, we had two significant deaths in our family, which require us, we need to move to, one of which left a nephew with no parents. So we need to move to take care of those needs. We tried selling late last year with the 20 acres. So we had several inquiries. Would you consider selling the house with 10 acres? At the time, we didn't want to mess with the hassle of doing that. Again, we needed to move to take care of family. So we took the house off the market for the winter, put it back on in April of this year. Again, we kept getting inquiries, would you consider selling a house on 10 acres? That's when we decided to pursue the rezoning. So I might just add that rural properties are becoming more and more difficult to sell. and most people are intimidated by anything more than 10 acres. And so in conjunction with these facts, the fact that the low yields, a small parcel, and what I've just stated, the Planning Commission's report concludes it meets every criteria to rezone. And I would specifically point to three criteria in the report. The first being under number 1, conformance with a comprehensive plan. On page 9, the staff comment states, the creation of a smaller parcel would not impact the overall rural character as in keeping with the character of the area. Also under criteria 3, character of the area on page 8 of the report, which states in the staff finding paragraph that the character of the area would be maintained. And the last one, criteria 3, under number 7, the effect on nearby properties. The staff finding on page 11 states the proposed residence would have no detrimental effect on nearby properties. So in summary, the report supports the request to rezone and meets all the requirements of the comprehensive plan. So thank you for your time. I also want to thank Catherine and the planning staff. They've been very patient with me in explaining the process and answering all my questions. So I'm here to answer your questions.
I had a question. Are those asphalt roads surrounding the property, or are they gravel?
No, they're all gravel, but as Catherine indicated, 200E Road is a whatever you refer to it as a primary county road.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, we may have some later. Thank you, appreciate it. We'll open this up for public comment. Anyone here at the courthouse wish to make public comment on this item? Anyone online, Sarah? All right, back up to the commission for discussion, further questions or motions.
So if I may, Mr. Chair.
Please.
I can't say that I ever am excited about dividing up rural properties further, but I did kind of take a good look at the maps that were provided in terms of how many other houses are nearby, what other AG2 is nearby, and also I know that I, at least from this position, have asked before about what Commissioner Dorsey was getting at of road access. How far is it from a paved road? Those kinds of questions. How many houses are in between? In this case, it's even though they're gravel roads, that 1025 county highway, county thoroughfare is always built to a better standard than a lot of our other gravel roads, and I thought that kind of weighed in favor of the suitability for this property to have that division. I also, of course, listened to the Planning Commission as they discussed this item too, and was one thing that I really noted from that was that the discussion about agriculture was entirely around, commodity agriculture and for the most part, row crops. A little bit of talk about hay, and really no kind of recognition that you can do a lot on 10 acres if you choose to with specialty crops or grazing. I mean, how many goats can you raise on a property of that size? Those sorts of things. So I just think it doesn't necessarily impact how we need to look at this particular division, but just wanted to make sure that we don't ever get pigeonholed about what agriculture is and what it can be. So that was just a couple of thoughts. I said I'm not super excited about divisions of this type, but I think that this is a reasonable request.
Thank you. I'll say I listened to the Planning Commission meeting as well and appreciate the dialogue there and the different values that were raised, and went out and drove to this property along that road to sort of see what that was like, because I do think there was some discussion at the Planning Commission that this would hurt the rural character. I think it was important for me to understand what 10 acres of land look like. Sometimes I think that's hard to visualize. And so being able to see what would adding one more house to it, and then I think Catherine's confirmation there that the land is still, we're not doing anything to the land other than rezoning it. So it could be contiguous if there was an agreement. I think there was some discussion at the Planning Commission that immediately when this happened that area could not be farmed, and I don't know that I share that same perspective. And think that when we decided that AG2 could be 10 acres, I think we opened the door for these type of requests. And then we have to look at each individual one that comes to us to determine if that rezoning is appropriate. And in this case, it does seem appropriate to me. Okay, I'm not seeing any other commissioners jumping in, so I will make a motion to approve the request to rezone approximately 20.27 acres at 205 North 1700 Road from AG1 Agricultural to AG2 Traditional Agricultural District based on the findings presented in the staff report and forwarding the request to the Board of County Commissioners with a recommendation for approval.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. All right. Well, it sounds like I might be thinking about an ice cream break. I'm not. We're moving on to a special event permit request. By the way, thank you, Catherine. It's nice to hear nice things about our planning department. Thank you for being here. A special event permit request from Eric J. Garrett of Garrett's Farm, Garrett's Entertainment LLC, doing business as Garrett's Haunted Farm, to allow an outdoor Halloween-themed festival, and I'll stop there. Hi, Carl.
Good evening, Commissioners. Before you is a request from Eric Garrett for a special event permit for a Halloween-themed event. So first, a little bit about special event permits. We don't bring very many special event permits before you because many of them are processed administratively. There are some criteria listed in the zoning code that if those criteria are met, the event can be approved administratively. If it's missing one of those criteria, we have to forward it to you for consideration. This particular event has come before you over the past 3 years, and here it is for a 4th time. The property is located at 1387 East 1650 Road, also known as Franklin Road within the city of Lawrence. This property is unique as it is a county island, meaning it is a piece of unincorporated land entirely surrounded by land that has been annexed into the city limits of Lawrence. The property is zoned Ag 2 or transitional agriculture on the southern 2/3 of the property and light industrial on the northern third of the property. The property is used as a rental home and for agricultural purposes, and it's also used seasonally around 4th of July as a fireworks stand. Surrounding land uses include industrial, commercial retail, Tractor Supply is located right there, and residential just to the south. There is a city bus stop on the southeast corner of the property, and then we also have the county jail and the Lawrence Community Shelter just to the southeast. The proposed festival is set to run from September 26th to November 3rd. It consists of 2 parts, a children's event to take place during the day and a gel blaster hunt in the evening involving people going around shooting at zombies with gel blasters. The children's part of the event is set to run daily between 9 in the morning and 6 in the evening, and it will include a corn pool, slide, bounce houses, a train ride that consists of a diesel tractor, and a variety of other activities. There will also be some retail sales inside of a tent, and there may be some food vendors. The zombie gel blaster hunt is set to run Friday and Saturday evenings from 8 to 10. It will involve a group of customers walking around a set course that'll be set up on the property, shooting gel at various scenes. This was previously operated as a paintball hunt, but the applicant is switching this year to gel blasters out of the interest of safety of the zombie actors. This is a site plan submitted by the applicant showing the general course on that property. And with that, staff is recommending approval with the same set of conditions as approved in years past. With that, I'm available for any questions.
I have a question for Carl. The map that you showed or the site plan that you showed doesn't show much on the south, but I think in years past there's been props and such that have been set up on that southern half that's closer to the housing that's going in there. Is that not being done this year, or is it just not shown on that site map?
It's not shown on that site map, but the applicant is planning to put some derelict vehicles there for what he has called a car smash. That was there last year, and he's proposing that this year as well.
I might have some thoughts about that after we see if there's any public comment.
You might have said this, but I've forgotten already. Why is this one not approved administratively?
There are certain criteria in the zoning code that need to be met in order for this to be approved administratively. Some of those have to do with the timing, like how many days it's going on. This exceeds the amount of days, and that's why it has to come before you, because it is going for about a month in time.
Carl, I know I'm asking you something off the top of your head, so if you don't know, that's fine. Have we had, I mean, this will be the fourth year for this event. Have we had a significant number of complaints about this event?
I'm not aware of any complaints on this one.
Thanks. Any other
Carl,
questions?
can I ask sorry.
Go ahead.
Can I ask a follow-up question for Carl on the reason this isn't approved administratively? What's noted in the packet is if there's a nuisance or danger element that could be a part of it. Was that a concern at all with the what was paintball and now gel guns?
Because of the potential for noise, that's why the potential for nuisance complaints has been in there. That is one of those criteria that's in the zoning code. The timing, potential for nuisance, just because of the potential for noise complaints. That's also why this is forwarded to you.
And the station also included? Is that in this application?
Commissioner, can you repeat your question? You broke up there for just a second.
Sure, sorry. Did I see on the site plan, is there a first aid station?
The site plan does show a first aid station. Yep.
Thank you. I know this is the fourth time that the commission has seen it. It's my third time with it. Since then, there's been a significant development of housing to the south. Does that come into play in terms of as this property or as the land uses around this property evolve? Does that change how either staff looks at this or our considerations?
What I can say with regard to that is that the applicant is required to send out letters to everybody within 400 feet of the event, and then we also sent out letters giving notice of this public hearing. Since those letters have been sent out, I haven't had anybody reach out to me. I think some of the neighbors in that area have been around for a while, and they might be aware of this, and since the event has been going on for a few years now, it's been covered in local media. I think there is some knowledge that the event takes place there as well. As that neighborhood does get built up further, that is something we will consider.
Thanks.
Well, that just made me curious about why this is still an island of the county surrounded by city property. I thought the city was working to eliminate those islands. Do you have any update on that, Carl?
I can't comment too much on the city's annexation policy. That's not something that we really have much to do with. That's something that the city's planning department handles. What I can say about this property is that the owner is in the fireworks business and uses this property for a seasonal fireworks stand. That wouldn't be possible within the city of Lawrence.
Thanks. Okay, any further questions, commissioners? All right, Carl, we might come back to you. Any public comment on this special use permit here at the courthouse? Anyone online, Sarah?
Actually, we did have a hand raised.
Okay.
Eric, you're in the panel and you can provide your public comment.
I believe that's the applicant.
Oh, this is the
Hi.
applicant.
Yes, I'm the applicant. Can you hear me okay? I'm on a Zoom call.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify one point that the site map is accurate to what we're wanting to do. The Gel Blaster Zombie Hunt is kind of a scaled down event, and it's on foot as opposed to going through a ride on a trailer. So that is why it's contained into a smaller geographic area because people don't want to walk too far. And the gel blasters are quieter than the paintballs and don't have the range or the velocity of paintballs. So we're hoping to be able to keep actors a little bit better. That's the goal here. And that's all I have to say, unless you guys have any questions.
We'll let you know if commissioners have questions. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Okay. Any other public comment? Okay. We'll bring it back to the commission for further discussion, questions, and/or motions.
I have to say, I personally appreciate the moves towards better zombie safety this year than previous. So I appreciate those considerations. Just that the scaled down nature of it, I think, helps a little bit with that fitting into what's becoming more of a neighborhood around there. I also want to mention that, we get special use permit requests and, roads and access is always an issue. This is one of the few that's going to have its own bus stop, but certainly has, paved road access all around so that traffic isn't a concern there. I do annually raise my objection to pointing guns at anybody and pulling triggers. That's what I feel is not appropriate for gun safety, but it also is not at all against our regulations. And this has generally been something that's been approved here.
Okay. I don't have any comments. Appreciate staff's work on this. I'll make a motion to approve a special event permit request C SEP 2025-0001 from Eric J. Garrett with the conditions as listed in the staff memo.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you. We'll go on to another special event permit request from Nancy Thelman of the Save Our Schools, Save Our Soil, Kaw Valley Foundation to allow an outdoor concert and agricultural exhibition on October 11th, 2025 from 3 to 10 on property located at 1359 North 1900 Road. Carl?
Good evening again. The proposal before you is for a special event located on the property you see highlighted here. Again, because this proposed event does not satisfy the criteria listed in the zoning code, it's being forwarded to you for consideration. The applicant, as you mentioned, is Nancy Thelman of the Save Our Soil Kaw Valley Foundation. The subject properties, which you see highlighted there, are owned by Nancy Yonley and have a combined area of about 116 acres. The properties are both zoned Ag 1 or agriculture. The properties are used as a residence and for growing row crops. Surrounding properties are similar in character, and the property to the south is within city limits and is used as a city park and a levee. The proposed event is known as Kaw Valley Field Day and is scheduled for Saturday, October 11th from 3 to 10 p.m. There's an anticipated attendance of about 1,000 people, not all at once, but throughout the course of the day. And the event is intended to be a kickoff for the new Save Our Soil Kaw Valley Foundation, which the applicant can talk more about. The event is to consist of a U-Pick pumpkin patch, hay rack ride, agricultural equipment display, some educational and vendor booths, food trucks, a beer tent, and an outdoor concert. There will also be a chef-prepared ticketed dinner that will be a fundraiser for the foundation. The property is located on North 1900 Road, which is a gravel road maintained by Grant Township. It's about 1 mile off the closest paved road, which is East 1450 Road or US 2459. I did reach out to the township and they indicated that they have no concerns with the granting of this request, and the applicant has indicated to me that they are working with the township to ensure any concerns are addressed and also to address those temporary access points. This is the first proposed concert that has been brought before you on a gravel road since 2017. The applicant submitted this site plan showing what the layout of the site will be. And zoomed in here, you can see there's an area where the stage will be set up, and then another area closer to the house where there will be some booths set up, as well as the outdoor private chef dinner. And with that, staff is recommending approval with the conditions as listed on the screen. These conditions are similar in character to other concerts that have been approved in the past. We do have one change to one of the conditions that was listed in the memo. After the applicant provided some additional details on what the stage will look like, we no longer will require a building permit for the stage, just a life safety inspection. And with that, I'm available for any questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Thanks, Carl. Commissioners, any questions on this one?
I'll ask a quick question while Carl's up, if I can. You mentioned 2017 was the last time there was a concert. I think you said concert, not just any special use permit on a gravel road. Was that the Luke Bryan concert, or was there something else?
It was, yes, the
Okay.
Luke Bryan concert.
And most of that's accessible by the paved county highway. So how much of that access was gravel?
Probably the last half mile, quarter mile, not very much was on the gravel for that one. That concert did have a condition attached to the special event permit that required dust palliative. We aren't requiring that in this case because the township hasn't asked for it.
So the was asked for by the township.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please? You broke up for a second.
Sorry. And in 2017, it was the township that was asking for that condition for the dust palliative.
I'm not sure if it was the township or Public Works that asked for that, but that was included in that case.
Okay, thanks. I'll have some other questions about kind of size and scale, and I guess I can go ahead and ask those now in terms of other special use permits that we do. I mean, 1,000 people is quite a lot, I think, for special permits that that the county's approved. Is there a minimum threshold or a threshold where kind of like that first aid station that was available at the one that we previously saw that would call for something like that with the number of people?
There's not a specific requirement in the zoning regulations for a certain number of people requiring a first aid station. We did reach out to the health department, but didn't receive any comment back. And I do know that the applicant has said she'll be reaching out to the health department. I can say that their goal is to run a safe event, and the applicant can address that further.
Okay. And just going by the Luke Bryan concert, which I'm sure was quite a bit larger, I'm making that assumption. I know they did have first responders on standby for that as one of the conditions too. Is what's the scale? How do you compare the scale of those two events?
I don't know the exact number of attendees at the Luke Bryan concert, but I did look at the report for that earlier today, and the maximum permitted was 20,000 people. So this is a considerably smaller event than that. I did reach out to the sheriff's office, and they didn't indicate that they're required to have a deputy on scene. And I know the applicant has been reaching out to the sheriff's office as well, just to make sure they're aware that the event is going on and that it'll be safe and everything too.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Carl? I see that the applicant is here. If you have anything you'd like to say to the commission, we welcome that. If you want to announce that Luke Bryan is your artist, I guess that would be an important announcement.
You remember that I was there in 2017 and experienced the Luke Bryan moment for the county, and honestly, it kept me awake a few nights when we were anticipating this And in fact, it caused our little organizing group to get to the county's zoning department as quickly as we could when we knew we wanted to do this event, so that we would have our special event permit in a timely fashion, and we wouldn't invite the sense of chaos and inconvenience and a little bit of danger that was terrifying in that particular moment. So we really have a group of folks who want to present this field day honestly as a piece of good news for our community and open it to the public for free. For those of us who live out there, we know the area well. Our interest actually is far beyond Douglas County. The Kaw River Valley extends all the way to Manhattan and down into Kansas City, and we're interested in learning more about the valley itself, the land, and all that goes with being a river valley, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and to build community around that, public advocacy and education, even a little entrepreneurial thoughts floating around. But this is very new. This field day is meant to be a happy, positive occasion that hopefully gifts people with a beautiful day in an open space on an iconic farm in a time when we all need good news. We all need to be uplifted, and that's what our intention is. I would like to say that Josh Peters is here, the Grant Township Road Manager. Crystal Neitzel's here. She's on the planning committee. She's one of the farm families. And then Mike Logan's here. We hired Mike to make sure he's got the event company that manages most of the really big events in Lawrence. And so that was our insurance policy, that we wouldn't get into a lot of technical difficulties. And Mike and his staff have been super helpful. So that's all I would say. We're just hoping to be off to a good start and do some good work. Thanks.
Any questions for the applicant, commissioners? Okay, thank you. Take public comment on this item. Is there anyone who'd like to provide public comment? Anyone online, Sarah? Okay, we'll close public comment. Back up to the commission for questions, further discussion, and motions.
Mr. Chair, if I may. I'll jump in with just a quick comment. I'm curious about the dust palliative or the dust impact of the 1,000 vehicles or so, or 1,000 people. And it's kind of a weird spot that, if the township hasn't asked for it, it's an odd thing for us to put in when it's a township road and not a county road. But I'm kind of struck by the difference of that's kind of a common sense thing that I think we have often asked for when we think there's going to be a big impact. So I'm just kind of curious what other commissioners are thinking.
Josh, do you want to come up and address that? Thanks for being here.
So we have several roads along that section of road that already has palliative care that's done in the spring. So the sections that are actually going to be affected are very minimal. Worst case, you could do a water truck if it was a big thing, but I wouldn't do the chemical. All right, cool.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, I may need to have you repeat that. I didn't catch that last bit.
If you really were going to enforce something like that, water truck to keep the dust down would be more applicable than chemical at this point in time, so close to fall.
And Josh, is it not, I think I've heard from Palmyra that if you actually apply it in the fall, it's detrimental, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
It'll create weird slick surfaces for the snow.
Correct, okay, thank you.
Yep.
I can also add that for the Luke Bryan concert, that had a designated route that attendees were set to follow, And that's why there was also a dust palliative condition. This one, we don't have a set route that attendees have to follow, although there is kind of just the one way in and one way out.
Okay. Any other comments, motions, questions?
I recommend we approve special event permit request from Nancy Thelman of the Save Our Soil Caw Valley Foundation to allow an outdoor concert and agricultural exhibit on October 11th, 2025, from 11 p.m. to 10 p.m. on property located at 1359 North 1900 Road.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 4-0. All right. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Nancy, and those members of the committee that were here. We'll move on to the presentation for on-site selection for Lawrence Douglas County Fire Medical Station 6. I see Mackenzie is joining us.
Good.
Do you have slides?
Share the screen. Perfect. I am just going to start with an introduction and then hand the mic over to Stephen. So Lawrence Douglas County Fire Medical has come to you all a few different times talking about expansion. And then in the presentation, there will be a little bit of history on how we've gotten to this point. But I did want to formally introduce Stephen, who's our project manager with the City of Lawrence with MSO, and he's been doing great work with Lawrence Douglas County Fire Medical in facilitating a lot of these discussions and working with our architects and engineering group, as well as working with LDCFM. So he's also a project manager for a lot of other LDCFM projects. So he's a familiar face to us, but I believe new to you all. So I'll hand it over.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. As Mackenzie said, I'm Stephen Hallstrom, Project Manager for Construction for the City of Lawrence, and we're here tonight to give you an update on our pre-design process so far for Expansion Station number 6 and give you an update on next steps moving forward. So a brief overview of our agenda for the presentation. We'll go through an introduction and the project timeline, and then we'll discuss our pre-design process and the guiding principles and the space needs analysis overview that came out as part of our visioning and programming sessions. Then we'll move in a little bit to our site evaluation and selection process, show you the preferred site that we got to through that, and then go through the general health and safety design considerations and sustainability initiatives involved in modern day station design. So for our pre-design timeline, we brought an engineering services agreement to the City Commission in March of 2025, and shortly after that, throughout the spring, we got underway with our pre-design. We had visioning and programming workshops, which I'll detail a little bit more coming up. Moved into our site evaluation kickoff and then the site selection process. And then our next steps are the concept design workshops, which were kind of the more site-specific parts of the pre-design process. And then our overall project timeline, we intend later this year or early in 26 to bring a supplemental agreement with SFS Architecture to move into detailed design and get us to the construction documents phase. At which point we'll undergo that detailed design throughout 2026, begin construction in 2027, and have the station operationally ready for service in 2028. So in the initial phases of our pre-design, we went through some benchmarking tours. We toured with we call it the Lawrence Douglas County Station Design Committee. We toured 3 existing Lawrence Douglas County Fire Med stations, 1, 2, and 5. Just so those involved in the project that aren't familiar with LDCFM operations can tour those facilities, learn from the staff what works, what doesn't work, what they like about each station. And then after that, we toured 2 pier stations in Overland Park 41 and 48, that were recently designed by our SFS architecture team. And in those benchmarking tours detailed the health and wellness features that are integrated into the facility, the gender neutral facilities, and the flexible training spaces throughout those facilities. After that, we had a visioning and programming workshop, an exercise that helped, the Post-it notes you see in the picture there, that was an exercise that helped define the values for stakeholders. And we kind of discussed those and then organized those by commonality. In addition to that, we had an initial sustainability initiative discussion, had a recap of those benchmarking tours after everybody involved had a little while to digest what they saw. And then we had a detailed discussion of the space needs for the expansion station. In this slide, these are the guiding principles that kind of came out of that sticky note exercise you saw on the previous screen. So to establish future-focused facilities that can be sustainably operated and maintained while fostering the health, safety, and well-being of its occupants, to provide design solutions that optimize operational readiness, promote equity across the department's infrastructure, and support a welcoming aesthetic to the community. Locate new stations to maximize coverage area, minimize response time, and thoughtfully integrate into the surrounding neighborhood, and engage in a design process that allows for collaboration across stakeholders and supports comprehensive communication practices. So as a result of that, we came up with the initial draft of our space needs analysis. This was what we went through with the station design team. This captured all the wants and needs for the expansion station. And to the right, you'll see the major space type category broken up into square footages and percentages. On the left, you'll see just kind of the major spaces. So this first draft came in around 16,500 square feet. It included a training room for 32, similar to the Jayhawk room at Station 5, captain's office, 3 flex offices, flex spaces, station office, 10 bunks, 4 gender-neutral toilet showers, kitchen dining day room, fitness room, 3 drive-through bays, training room off the bay, and a training mezzanine. So after that first draft, we got back together with the station design committee. We did kind of a first cut as we needed to right size it, and that resulted in about a 500 square foot reduction from the first to the second draft. So the preliminary cost per square foot estimating and total project budget analysis was completed at this time and determined that we need to continue reducing the overall square footage of the station. So at that point, we evaluated the critical needs for the station. The large training room and the training mezzanine were determined to be lower priority items and were removed. The station office size was increased. The day room size was slightly decreased, but still matches that of the other existing stations. And as a result, we did have to reduce it to 2 drive-through bays. But we were planning on, at that point, when we got through the site selection process, leaving that third bay space open for an alternate to be in the bid so it could be built if the budget allowed. What you'll see up on the screen is the project budget comparing that 16,000 square feet to that 13,000 square foot facility. And these were based on historical cost data for fire stations, based on specific space types. So the apparatus bay is going to have a lower square footage or cost per square foot due to kind of the more utilitarian nature of it, versus the gender neutral restroom facilities and the individual bunks. And then in part of this, specific land acquisition and site development costs were still an unknown. So conservative estimates of that were included in the soft cost sections of that. So you can see from the first draft to the second draft, we went from approximately 2.3 million over budget to about 300,000 over budget. And then we were able to begin our site selection process. These are the northwest and south gap areas as defined by the 2020 station optimization analysis. So that gave us our 2 key gaps to focus on for site selection. And using the initial property criteria in the top left, minimum 2 acres in size, vacant or substantially vacant, near arterial collector streets, and no ownership restrictions, we centered the northwest gap point at 6th and Queens Road and the south gap point at 33rd and Iowa Street. We then used the 5 dimensions of risk to help prioritize the sites in the gap area, and then the site evaluation matrix on the right is what we use for a more granular approach to really refine the site evaluation. In the site evaluation matrix on the right, you'll see the location and access and the cost and schedule were determined to be higher priority items, so those were weighted heavier than some of the other factors on that sheet. And through that process, you can see on the side there, apologies, it's a little small, is the scoring sheet for the selected location, which was 555 Stone Ridge Drive. So we worked alongside with our GIS department to do a drive time analysis for the 4 and 10 minute drive times from that location. The map on the right you'll see is the 4-minute drive time, and the existing gap is identified in the station optimization analysis. And you'll just of note, the map that was run is only based on the existing road network. So as any additional streets are built out anywhere in the blank areas, that should be able to fill itself in the 4-minute drive time. And the drive time map on the left shows the 4 and the 10-minute drive time for the 10-minute within the county. So once we had that site, we held site evaluation workshop, which was an interactive workshop that took building blocks. As you'll see in that photo, the colored building blocks were representative of the actual square footage of each program area, so we could get a general idea of how the station could fit on the site. And following that workshop, our design team with SFS Architecture was able to put together a concept test fit for how the station would be able to fit on that property. Key site considerations here, by pushing the station to the north on the property, we were able to maintain access to, I believe that's St. Margaret's Church over there. We were able to maintain all clearances to allow for future maintenance of the water tower and any of the water lines running to and from it. And we will also be able to, through the design, assist in mitigating some stormwater management challenges with the properties to the north. Okay, so once the preferred site was identified and the test fit confirmed, we did another budget analysis. And through that, without the need for land acquisition costs and specifically a traffic signal to be added as part of that, we were able to add in the third bay, not to be within the base bid, not to be a bid alternate. And at this moment, we are showing we're currently just under $300,000 under budget. Now we'll go into some of the general health and safety design considerations. So now we use a hot zone design concept, a hazard-based design concept throughout the early design, with the intent of keeping the living areas separated from the higher contaminant zones. So you know, the red zones, the apparatus bays, that's where your heaviest contaminant areas are. And then it doesn't, I can't quite see the color change, but they're between the green areas, the bunk rooms, and the showers, the kitchen, day room. There are small yellow areas. Those are pressurized transition zones that help maintain that separation between those areas. And then we also, you know, it's a fire station, people live here. So we took a lot of consideration in creating a living and working environment to promote mental well-being and good sleep hygiene, creating a home-like environment with plenty of access to natural light, individual bunks, and those gender-neutral toilet and shower facilities. So with our sustainability initiatives, we evaluated the regional, county, city, and LDCFM's local initiatives and aligned those goals, found the common thread in between them. And not only were we doing that, but we're attempting to integrate sustainability into every step of our design, with the ultimate goal of obtaining LEED Gold certification as required by the city's Sustainable Capital Projects policy. And by using that alignment of the county and fire department goals and project needs to prioritize our approach to achieving LEED Gold, we're not attempting to chase the LEED Gold points as we go through this project. We're hoping to ingrain these within our design process so that we're led that way rather than having to chase them. And in an effort to deliver a safe, high performance, and healthy building that is cost effective to build and operationally durable, affordable, and maintainable. So with that, the next steps, we are planning on moving into our sustainability workshop where we'll take a deeper dive into the specific systems, materials, building orientation, and construction considerations needed to guide our work as we proceed. Followed by that, we'll have the MEP workshop to review potential building systems options and evaluate that against the facility needs and our sustainability initiatives. And then we will move into our conceptual design, develop the preferred site and the building plan concept with some initial massing studies. And then again, we are intending later this year, early in 26, to bring a supplemental agreement to that engineering services agreement to move forward with detailed design on the project. With that, do we want to take any questions on the presentation or do you want to follow up? Yep. Okay.
Commissioners, any questions?
I had a question on the build estimate. Did you use current cost or, because we heard on our other big project next door, costs are going up due to tariffs being applied to things?
Yeah, certainly. Sorry, let me get the, yes, so those were used. SFS Architecture has recently designed those other two stations in Overland Park and has had an escalation factor added into that to account for any future increases. As well as anybody can these days.
Yeah. The other question I had, the city already owned that site, right?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, and that eliminated the need for us to hold aside any budget for property acquisition costs.
Any other questions?
I have a couple. One is, so the original design kind of was looking at 16,500 square feet and then kind of whittled it down to about 13,000 square feet. So I'm just curious, what are the sizes of some of our other stations within the city of Lawrence that are full fire medical stations? How does this compare?
So for reference, I believe our most recent comparably built station, I'd say Station 4 out at Clinton Park, near Clinton Parkway in Wakarusa, I believe that's about 12,000 square feet.
And with not having the training spaces that are built in, is the anticipation that they would train at one of the other existing stations or at the training facility on 19th Street?
So by eliminating those larger training rooms, we did increase the size of the essentially the watch office area as well as the, let's see, apologies, let me make sure I'm speaking true here. Yes, the station office size was increased a little bit to accommodate the staff that would be stationed at that station, but I believe the anticipation would be that any of those larger trainings would be held at the existing larger rooms at stations. And Mackenzie can speak.
So a lot of our department training happens at the training center, but then also the Jayhawk room at Station 5. And so as we were looking at our current needs with our department training, but then also training that we host with emergency management and other partners in the county, we were saying that that would be a great add-on. But as we were going through looking at the specific needs for the station to meet the budget, the conversations of training at the crew level that is currently stationed at that station, that ties into what Stephen just talked about with how we change some of the office space so that crews would have designated space, but not necessarily space big enough to host larger trainings. So we would still continue to use our other facilities for that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. I have another question about I know as you're doing site selection and there were a lot of voices and a lot of considerations in that mix, what's the process for having a conversation with the neighborhood?
So we are intending in the supplemental agreement for the next phases of design to have some early neighborhood engagement in there with our design consultant. Aside from that, there will be the standard site planning property owner notifications, which would be notifications of all property owners within 400 feet and any adjacent neighborhood associations. But overall, it's the intent to generally have, the neighborhood input be site aesthetics, site features, things like that.
And I know when you were doing the site selection workshop, or how you'd use it on the site, how you make your site map, there were kind of north of the water tower and south of the water tower options that you were showing there. Will the neighborhood have any input on those? Consider like how close? I'm thinking of the neighborhood specifically to the north, that's single family residences, and of course there are multifamily residences across the road also. But just curious about engagement.
Yeah, and again, we'll plan to get those property owners and neighborhood associations involved early in the design process, so there aren't any surprises when we come to that site planning portion of the standard notification process.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, we'll open it up for public comment. Anyone here at the courthouse like to provide public comment on this item? Anyone online? Thank you, Sarah. Bring it back to the commission for further discussion, questions, and/or motions.
I'd make a couple comments if I can. I know the two locations we were looking at for gaps to fill in terms of time and response, where they go the south and the northwest. And, our discussions around the county commission when we'd had work sessions on this was to look at what the impact of those different locations would be on rural response overall. I do think the northwest is the more needed of those, though those are always hard considerations. And I liked that you included the drive time analysis, the 4 minutes and the 10 minutes. I'd be really curious to see like what those maps look like before this Station 6 location and after and with this Station 6 location, because I think we've got some real gains here, and it would be nice to be able to kind of tell that story to the public. In particular, I'm looking at like the city of Lecompton, which is the only city in Douglas County that doesn't host an ambulance. Getting that within the 10-minute drive time, my expectation is it probably wasn't or isn't currently.
I do believe actually with the 555 Stone Ridge location that Lecompton was within the 10-minute drive time, and I do have an overall drive time map coverage that we've created that I can certainly get over to you.
And that can come in a future presentation. I'm sure it's not the only time we'll be talking about this.
Thank you, Commissioner Willie. Anything else, commissioners?
I had one question. Under our current agreement with the city of Lawrence, what are our legal obligations to approve this?
So the current agreement doesn't speak to capital. That's an area that we've wanted to incorporate into future governance agreements. So I would say we aren't technically required, but we've been working very cooperatively with the city of Lawrence to be at the table, and staff has been a part of this. So we've been trying to encourage more of that cooperation, but I would say legally, you're probably not required to approve it.
So this is more or less, we agree with what's happened so far.
Correct.
I have another quick question. In terms of the 3 bays, so it went from 2 drive-through bays to finding the ability to add that third one back in. How many vehicles or what vehicles are expected to be accommodated with those 3 bays? It's not just 3 vehicles, is that correct?
So originally, when we were talking about the 3 bays, it was going to be very similar to our current stations that are almost, I say that they're like 3 double bays. And so you can pull through. However, with our current station kind of inventory of our base space, and then also our apparatus tools, our trailers, those drive-through bays have not become drive-through bays. And so they're not used like that. So with this new design, we are proposing 3 drive-through bays. So they're not quite two, they don't have room for 2 units to kind of stack on each other or to become storage space. So the idea with this 6th station is for a fire apparatus and a medic unit. And then very similar to our other stations, having the ability to store one of our other reserve units that may be used for special events. Or if there's, like, we have a hazmat trailer and a tech rescue trailer, MCI trailer, those other things that we store for the region that we're able to potentially put at Station 6.
Thank you. That helps.
Thank you for the presentation. While we might not be legally required to approve it per our agreement, I appreciate the collaboration on it and learning more about your process. To me, it seemed like a very thorough process and very thought out. Happen to make a motion if commissioners are ready. Make a motion to approve 555 Stone Ridge as the selected location for LDCFM Station 6.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. That ends our regular business agenda. We'll move on to appointments. Commissioners, do any of us have appointments for today?
I don't have any for you. I'm going to bring you a couple next week.
Looking forward to that. All right, we'll move over to Commissioner.
I had one question.
I'm sorry.
On appointments, I noticed on your list today, it said the non-legal
Non-lawyer appointee to the judicial
has to be
district.
from District 4.
It does not have to be from District 4. I need to clarify that with Robin. We just need another appointee.
Oh, okay. I thought it
No,
was in
it
my
doesn't.
plate.
No, it's not required that it be each district. In the past, that's how we did it, but it's not a requirement. So anybody can give us a name for that 4th. And I think actually Commissioner Willie was talking to some folks. Or maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I've started some conversations. I think there's some interest, but I'm not ready to bring that forward. But if there's an interest in having me share that with District 4, we can certainly do that too.
I'd say if you could give it to me, Commissioner, then I can circulate it to all commissioners if we have a nominee to pull forward.
Okay, and not quite sure we're there yet, but I will work on it.
Thank you.
Anything else on appointments, commissioners? All right, we'll move to Administrator and Commissioner Miscellaneous. Sarah, you want to get us started?
Thanks, Commissioners. We added a couple new events, potential events in the community to the memo, so please take a look at those. And next week, we do have a 4 o'clock work session, and then we will have one the week after. Commissioners, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Commissioners, I wanted to share some information on last Friday. Sarah and I went down to Wichita, and it was very nice of Sedgwick County to host us at the zoo. By the way, if you go see the zoo, it's really cool. We didn't get to spend a ton of time at the zoo. We mostly spent time talking about some issues that are important to all 5 counties, and specifically one that dominated a lot of our conversation was the annual property tax subsidy that for motor vehicle operations, and we're working together on a legislative platform for that. We also talked quite a bit about, and Sarah, I didn't know if you had any more information on our sales tax, how our property tax levy impacts our sales tax.
I haven't had time to dig into that.
Okay.
It's still on my to-do list.
Yeah, so there are some things that I think may be impacting some of these larger communities when it comes to adjusting their property tax and the impact that adjusting their sales tax has on their property tax. Sarah and I were going to do a little bit of checking on that. We'll get back to the commission on that. But so that's something that is coming up. And then I'm very excited about some legislation that's being proposed in this next session on Kansas Residential Landlord Tenant Act. And it really aligned very interestingly with our conversation about tenant right to counsel. I'm planning on attending a session on September 22nd, I want to think it is. I think Jill is as well, and can provide some more information on that after that. But we'll probably try to get this little handout to you in your memo, on your weekly memo, that gives some of the information about that. It is significant legislation for the state of Kansas, and already has sponsors for the bill when it goes to the legislature. So also there was some discussion about some juvenile justice reforms, and if you want to look that up, that's House Bill 2329. Other items we talked about were some things around cost sharing on property insurance, some sales tax things, and tourism. Those I think are still germinating a little bit. I think the group wanted to be very thoughtful about how many items it took on. They feel like there's real power with the group of 5, and Commissioner Willie, thanks for your work last year with that group. There was a real sense of we need to continue to collaborate and work together and draw attention to issues that really impact more urbanized counties. And so thank you, Commissioner Willie, for that. I think you would have been really pleased with the partnership that was discussed there. And yeah, I'm happy to take any questions you have on that, or if there's more information, Sarah and I can get you. We're happy to do that.
Was there anything on our aging population?
We really didn't come up with this group. You know, I do think some of the some of the rental legislation that's being proposed does address some of that. But no, just senior issues in general didn't come up with the group. If there are specific issues that you think we should bring forward, you know, please let me or Sarah know, and we can look at that. But I do want to make sure that we are not becoming, that group is not becoming that has a huge list of legislative priorities. We want to be really specific. There was good discussion around that we may disagree on a lot of things, that some commissioners may not all agree on the same ideas, but let's talk about what we can agree on and what we want to use our, you know, I don't want to say weight, influence maybe. We have over 60% of the state's population lives in those 5 counties. So, you know, one thing that really, I think, elevated the conversation for me was understanding that of the $30 in fees that's paid to the treasurer's office, Douglas County will collect 75 cents of that $30. So, you know, and while our lines seem long, they are nothing compared to what we heard was happening in Sedgwick and Johnson County. And this has become I think, a significant, I don't use the word crisis lightly, for Sedgwick County. And there are some things we could do around that reform of that property tax and how the systems work as well that we heard. The Sedgwick County Treasurer was there sharing some thoughts on that, and that opened my eyes to it. And I know she's been working with Adam and is aware of what we deal with here in Douglas County. Sarah, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that was really helpful. They really want to stay very focused on the specific things that we can all agree on and put forward. They are going to try to organize monthly, like, Teams calls or calls in on this, that they will notify commissioners. We want to make sure we don't have, you know, more than 1 or 2 commissioners there, but staff and then legislative folks will be on those calls as well. So we'll keep you all in the loop on that. And I do think there was talk about sort of creating a document that would have sort of those top priorities that we could also share around the time when we're putting our legislative platform together.
Stuart Little, our lobbyist, was there in attendance and provided some guidance on how to move forward. We have different lobbyists for Johnson County and for Sedgwick County as well, and they have government affairs people. So I learned a little bit about how counties operate differently. And so, yeah, So lots of resources here, but want to be really cautious about how many things we put on the list.
Commissioner Kelly and Sarah, also, I just want to thank you both for being there. I'm really excited about that group. I think we are just kind of, waking up to the possibilities of what we can kind of do together. And a lot of those things kind of go back to, Commissioner, I believe you talked about this last time before you went to this meeting, how there's been a recognition that there aren't a lot of folks serving in the state legislature that understand local government and our needs and how we process things. And so some of the legislation that they'd worked on last year in terms of impacting our property taxes and how we evaluate property valuations and things like that kind of came out of maybe not having a full understanding of what those impacts are, or even the value of the services that we provide as local governments. So I think there's a real opportunity for that education piece of it too, especially as we're working together with our 60% of the population.
Thank you, Commissioner Willie. I also think there is some learning going on among county commissioners about how to work with state legislatures, and some of the things that were proposed last year and there was some feeling that they might go through did not go through. And so what learning are we discovering there about how to engage with those at the state level about the needs and concerns we have and how they balance their own values and priorities as well at the state level. So I think that was a good discussion as well. Any other miscellaneous items, commissioners? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned.